What's up guys, this is YeahBuoy in Ascension. This is my tier 8 Amagi review. I really love this ship. This is one of the 3 free-to-play battleships right now. The British line isn't out yet. Instead, the game's in version 1.7, so all you can play as far as free-to-play tier 8 battleships is the American, Japanese, and German ones. There's a 4th tier 8 battleship you can play right now. It's the Tirpitz, but it's pay-to-play. It's a premium ship. So as far as free-to-play goes and what's available, my favorite tier 8 currently is the Japanese Amagi. So I have 3 matches back to back here, and they're not back to back based on me clipping them back to back. They're actually back to back when I played them. They're really good matches, really fun. This is actually the 58th, 59th, and 60th battle in my Amagi. In my review in the video before this, where I reviewed the best tier 8 battleships, I'd only played 50 battles in this ship, so now this is the 58th battle. Then you'll see 59 and 60 after this. Anyways, I'm going to start off with going over some stats. The Amagi has a 12.36 kilometer surface detection. That's a little over 12 kilometer surface detection. What that means, guys, is that once my ship is within 12.36 kilometers of the enemy, they can detect me. So it's not when I can detect them, it's when they can detect me. 12.36 kilometers. That's a big range. That means you're definitely going to be one of the first ships detected every match, unless a destroyer, like one of your destroyers, yellows into the enemy. Either way, you're pretty much always going to be detected in this thing. It has, by the way, so some of these stats I'm giving you are from an elite Amagi, because my Amagi is elited, fully upgraded, and everything. So it has 48,521 hit points. That's 48,521. It has a 12.5% citadel protection, 12.5% fire and flooding protection, 13.5% damage reduction, and the torpedo reduction is 18 and 11%. 18.11%. In this particular video, in these stats I'm giving you, I do have the torpedo damage reduction equipment installed. And by the way, in the video I just skipped forward here. This is the same battle. I just skipped forward to the end because it was like a really long time with me trying to sail to the last enemy, and then I didn't even get to damage him because he got taken out, but right when I got there. So anyways, this is the same match. I just skipped forward right there. So that was the end of the 58th match in this ship. Anyway, back to some stats. The Amagi goes 28 knots. That's pretty good. It's not as fast as some of the other battleships at like lower tier, but it's fine at this tier. I mean, I can't complain about this speed. It's alright. It takes a little more than 25 seconds to accelerate to full speed, which it does take. It is a little slow at accelerating, but I haven't found it to be a huge problem. I've really thought about switching my equipment out to get acceleration just to see how it is. I think I'm actually going to try doing steering instead of acceleration. Right now I don't have acceleration or steering equipped. In these videos I actually have the shell dispersion reduction for the first equipment. I have the fire damage, fire chance reduction for the second equipment, and torpedo damage for the third equipment. But I'm thinking about switching out to try out double steering instead of the fire and torpedo reduction, just to see how that is, because I do want to bait and dodge torpedoes a little better in this thing. So I'll just see how that does. This thing gets lit on fire like crazy, by the way, so that's why I went with fire chance reduction on the second equipment for now, for my first like 60 battles, but I'm just gonna change it up. Anyways, so this thing you can turn at 4.8 degrees a second, so it's not bad and it's not amazing, but I mean it's good. I'm happy with how quick it turns. I'm just not happy with the acceleration. But anyways, the main guns are 410 millimeter main guns. It has 5 sets of 2s, so that's 10 total main guns, 410 millimeter. They have a 21-second reload time. You can shoot at 13.86 kilometers away, so that's pretty far. That's a really long range. 13.86 kilometers to shoot your main guns. And as you see right there a second ago, and it has a 13% chance of fire, which is awesome. Having 10 main guns with a 13% chance of fire is really good, but there's a trade-off. Your HE shells, which are high explosive, that's what causes fires. They do 1,180 damage, and so the trade-off is right here, where the AP damage does so much more. So HE does, the high explosive does 1,180. The armor penetration rounds do 1,864. So that's basically just under 1,200 versus just under 1,900. 1180 versus 1864. So the AP rounds do much more damage. 1864, that's a lot. And I kind of like that guaranteed of so much more damage rather than taking that 13% chance of getting a fire and then they'll probably put out your fire. So I generally like to use AP all the time in my Amagi unless I'm going to be firing at a cruiser that I know catches on fire very easily, or another battleship that I know catches on fire very easily. Again, I have to know this before I just choose. Or if I'm firing at a destroyer, it's always HE rounds. Because if y'all didn't know, I mean most people know this, but our AP rounds overpenetrate destroyers, so you always want to use high explosive rounds on destroyers. The secondary guns are 140 millimeter. There's 16 of them, 16 by 1, 16 sets of 1. They have a 7.5 second reload time. You can shoot your secondary guns at 6.2 kilometers, 6.21 kilometers away. They do 401 damage each. That's 401 damage, 6.21 kilometers. 7.5 second reload time for your secondaries. The anti-aircraft defense on this ship is pretty average. It's not horrible and it's not amazing. It's just, I mean, I'm satisfied with it. So you have 227 large caliber and 252 small caliber anti-aircraft. So it's pretty good. I mean, I wouldn't call it like super good. I don't know. I'm satisfied with it. Anyways, so this is the second match. This is my 59th match in this ship, and I actually wasn't watching the screen while I was talking, so I think y'all missed some of the things I want. There's some stuff that I wanted to talk about. I'm really tempted to go over strategies with these videos, just because, like, I really wanted to talk about some strategies in the first video and the beginning of this one. Like, for example, when okay, right here, turning. So this destroyer, I knew this destroyer was coming, and so I just wanted to turn just in case those torpedoes were coming, and then they actually ended up coming. So that prediction came in handy, and it often comes in handy so much that, like, I mean, it literally is a prediction, but I almost don't want to call it a prediction because it happens so often that you just there's such a high probability that they're going to be coming that just know that they're coming. Anyways, you can always dodge these torpedoes when the destroyers come around the corner like that. One thing I will say is that I've noticed some destroyer players are getting smarter. They're being more aware of players dodging their torpedoes and baiting them and knowing and, you know, turning ahead of time. So I've noticed a lot more players are getting destroyer players are getting really aggressive. And so when you go to dodge the torpedoes for where they should have been, like in that video where I dodged them, destroyers will actually know to wait, and they'll just come right up next to you to where you can't dodge them. And that's happened a few times to me. Players are getting better at playing destroyer and not missing their rounds. So that's just something. The meta is changing a little bit. Players are getting better, so you have to be ready for that. Anyways, I think I'll just skip forward here a little bit. I don't have anything left to say about this match. Actually, I just looked at what's coming next, and I don't have too much to say about the next battle. I'm just going to let this play out. I'm not going to skip forward. So I'm just going to let this play out and show you the next match, and I'll just hop in and talk about the next match whenever I have something to say. But for the most part, it's it's just a pretty average match. There's a few tactics I want to show y'all, so I'll just use that time to discuss those when they come.
Let's do this!
Let's do this! I appreciate it! Let's do this! Good day! Enemy aircraft incoming! Enemy target spotted! Precise aim activated. Target hit.
Alright guys, so if you've noticed that Takao over there has been waiting behind the island to shoot his torpedoes, and so now that he's come around the island, he's had a chance to shoot his torpedoes. He's going to come forward again, and I know that since I haven't seen his torpedoes yet, he's probably firing them right now. So he's going to assume that I'm going to be going forward, and so what I'm going to do is just start turning to the right to dodge his torpedoes that I know are coming. It's just so clear that they're coming, so I'm just going to keep turning to the right. If I had kept sailing forward, then all four of these would have hit me. So that's one thing you can do whenever you're expecting torpedoes to come. When you pretty much know they're coming, just turn to the right to dodge them. It's much better than turning to the left. In fact, turning to the left, you wouldn't have dodged them, and just going straight forward, you wouldn't have dodged them. Now, I could have reversed a second ago to dodge those torpedoes, but I've already played so passively this match played so overly protective that it's time to get aggressive, so that's why I'm pushing forward now. Now you're going to expect these torpedoes to come off the left side of his ship now. So I do have it in reverse because I don't know if he's fired them or not. He should have been able to fire them on the Torp path already, but turns out he didn't fire them, but I think that he could have. So anyways, that's why I reversed right there. So I'm just going to focus on this Colorado. Notice the shell dispersion. I just hit 8 rounds and I was not at a good angle. I mean, my ship was more broadside to him than his was to mine. And if you notice the shell dispersion, hitting 8 rounds when you have 10, 8 out of 10 rounds at that kind of angle, this ship has really good shell dispersion. That's one of the reasons why I love this ship so much. And also this right here. All that damage that it does. Myoko is a really powerful tier 7 Japanese cruiser. It's one of my favorites actually, and in fact, I can't remember. I think Myoko might be my most played ship out of all my ships. Pretty sure I have over 500 battles in it. It's a really powerful ship, but you can't be getting hit a whole lot in it. It's got, I'd say it's got alright. It's got average armor. It's not good and it's not terrible. So the British cruisers have weaker armor than the Japanese, and the Japanese cruisers have weaker armor than the American and German. So it's not the worst and it's not the best. Anyway, what you're going to see here, this last salvo, my 60th battle. These rounds hit that benzene, would have sunk him if I had another second left in the game. But, yeah. One thing I really like about this ship is that you can land your rounds at long distance. It's just the shell dispersion, the accuracy, I mean everything's so great in this ship. It's really easy to land your rounds, it's easy to play, that's why I like it. You can dodge torpedoes. You know, you can dance with destroyers, you can dance with cruisers and battleships. I mean, it's really maneuverable, it's powerful, doesn't have as good of armor as the other battleships that are available. But as long as you play at what you can handle, you're not going to have a problem. So I'm going to go over here and look at these stats real quick. And then I'm going to make a new video real quick to show you some changes I'm going to do to this ship. After I show you these stats, I'm going to hop over to a video that I'm about to make right after I show you. Here I have 60 battles in my Amagi and 50 battles in my North Carolina. The Tirpitz is still performing the best, then the Amagi, which is 2,000 higher than the North Carolina. Alright guys, I have switched over to a new video. So my silver and all that XP up there has changed. This is no longer right after my 60th battle, but anyways. I'm going to change out some equipment on my Amagi. This is what I've been playing with in the video that I showed you guys. And what I'm going to switch out to is, you know, the Amagi gets set on fire pretty easily. It's a big ship, and I just notice a lot of players are using high explosive rounds at tier 8, but you know, I really want to try steering gear modification. I also really want to try propulsion. Man, this is a hard decision. Like, I just want to try it out. I might end up returning to deck protection, but for now, I just want to see what I can do with double steering. I don't need to go anywhere faster in the Amagi, so I don't need this propulsion. What is this? These are both propulsion. Anyways. So yeah, I'm going to swap out torpedo defense protection to go with steering. I want to see if I can dodge and bait torpedoes effective enough to not need the torpedo damage reduction. So we'll see how it goes. That's just, I'm just keeping you guys up to date with what I'm trying out. And then just to show you guys my elite choice, I chose to go with hit points, anti-aircraft damage, and torpedo damage reduction. So pretty much in this ship, you're going to be the choice battleship for aircraft carriers to target. So that's why I went with anti-aircraft damage plus 5%. So just to show you the stats differences between this ship and the anti-air and then the other tier 8 battleships. This has 227 large caliber and 252 small caliber damage. If I go over to my North Carolina, this has the best anti-aircraft damage of the tier 8 battleships. It has 378 large caliber and 288 small caliber. Alright guys, I actually had to make a break in my video. I had to pause my recording and come back. I really don't like that. So anyways, I'm back now. Back to where we were talking about. The anti-aircraft on the Tirpitz. It has 245 large caliber and 109 small caliber. The Tirpitz, I said in my Tirpitz review video that the Tirpitz is not going to be the optimal ship for an aircraft carrier to target, and that's still true. At least I believe it is. I believe that you're wasting your time trying to take out a Tirpitz. The Tirpitz has more damage reduction. It actually has 2.25% more damage reduction than the Amagi. If we look over here, Tirpitz has 15.75% damage reduction, and the Amagi has 13.5% right here. So we go back over here. So yeah, the Tirpitz has a little more than 2% increased damage reduction than the Amagi. And it also has 5,000 more hit points. The Amagi has 48,512 hit points. The Tirpitz has 53,506 hit points. So the thing about playing as an aircraft carrier, actually the thing about the whole team, your whole team, what y'all should be doing is taking out the enemy as efficiently as possible. That means two things. You want to take them out as quickly as possible, but also you want to take them out while losing the least amount of teammates. You want the least amount of teammates sunk in the process. So that's going to be your team's efficiency, how quick you can take them out, and without losing the least amount of teammates in the process. And so you should always consider your planes as an aircraft carrier part of your team. Your aircraft, your planes are your teammates. They're just your NPC teammates, or like your squadrons. You can control them as a squadron, but not individually. You only have so many planes to send out, so you want to take out the enemy with losing the least amount of planes possible. If all your planes get shot down because you're targeting a battleship that's going to stay alive longer than the other battleships, they have more time to do more damage to your ship. As an aircraft carrier, you should be... Yeah, quick lesson by the way on aircraft carriers. You should be targeting ships that your teammates are going to be targeting, which should preferably be one that you can take out quicker. An Amagi is going to get sunk quicker than all the other battleships, because if you look at the damage reduction, the Amagi has 13.5% damage reduction, and the North Carolina has 15% damage reduction. The Tirpitz has 15.75% damage reduction. So the Amagi takes more damage than the other battleships. And also has 5,000 less hit points than like the Tirpitz. It does have about 1,000 more hit points than the North Carolina, but it takes damage a lot easier. So yeah, in my experience, my Amagi gets sunk more than my other battleships. So yeah. Now let's go back to some other stats. So yeah, the Amagi, 48,500 hit points. I do want to just do a direct comparison to the North Carolina, because these are the two ships that players play the most as far as battleships go. So as far as a one-on-one comparison, let me just do this. Tier 8 battleships. My Amagi, you can go ahead and compare the Citadel and Fire and Flooding damage reduction, Torpedo damage reduction on your own. Do keep in mind though the difference in my equipment when you're doing that. Like Torpedo damage reduction is 17.25% on the North Carolina, but it's 15.75% on my Amagi. That is because I switched my equipment out a second ago. If you remember earlier, my damage reduction, Torpedo damage reduction on the Amagi was 18.11% before I switched out the equipment. So if you want to compare to the North Carolina, torpedo damage reduction was 18.11% on the Amagi. 18.11 on the Amagi with the same equipment. And this North Carolina has 17.25% with the same equipment, the torpedo damage reduction. Now if we look at the speed, the maneuverability, you can go 28.06 knots in the Amagi. You go 26.4 knots in the North Carolina. So you go about 1.5 knots faster in the Amagi than the North Carolina. So the North Carolina is a little bit slower, but it has better maneuverability as far as traverse speed. You can turn a little bit quicker in North Carolina than in Amagi. You can turn at 5.1 degrees per second in the North Carolina. You can turn at 4.8 degrees per second in the Amagi. Now if we look at the main guns, the North Carolina has 406mm main guns. It has 9 of them. 9 406mm main guns. It has a 22-second reload time. The Amagi has a 1 second faster reload time, a higher caliber main gun, and 1 more main gun. So the Amagi has more guns, higher caliber, and a second faster reload time. So anyways, just to go over those stats more precisely, the Amagi has 410mm main guns, has 10 of them, with a 21-second reload time. If you want to look at the amount of damage being done by each round, the North Carolina's 9 main guns are going to be doing 1,935 AP damage each. That's 1,935 damage each for the North Carolina. The Amagi's 10 main guns are going to be doing 1,864 damage each. So let me just say that a little quicker. North Carolina, 9 guns, 1,935 damage. Amagi, 10 guns, 1,864 damage. The North Carolina has 10 secondary guns. They're 127 millimeters. The Amagi has 16 secondary guns, 140 millimeters. The North Carolina's secondary guns reload every 6 seconds. The Amagi's reload every 7.5 seconds. North Carolina's secondaries do 378 damage of HE, and the Amagi's secondaries do 401 damage HE. The Amagi does have a little bit further range on the secondaries than the North Carolina. The Amagi has 6.21 kilometers range, and the North Carolina has 5.87 kilometers. I guess one thing, it doesn't really matter that much, but the Amagi has a 1% increased fire chance over the North Carolina. The Amagi has a 4% fire chance on the secondaries, and the North Carolina has 3%. I guess while we're talking about fire chance, we can look at the main gun fire chance. The Amagi and the North Carolina both have a 13% chance of setting fire with high explosive rounds. Now I would recommend using AP damage most of the time in these two battleships, because the AP damage is just so much greater than the high explosive damage that I really don't think it's worth the trade-off by going with high explosive, unless you're firing at a destroyer, which you always want to use high explosive, or if you're firing at another battleship or cruiser that you know. In fact, actually, I would just always fire AP at cruisers, but if you know there's another battleship with a really high chance of setting fire, then you can shoot HE at that if you want to take your chance, or if you know that they've already used their fire control, their damage control kit, or whatever, their repair kit, or what's it called? Let's look here. This is called a damage control kit. Yep. So if they've already used their damage control kit, then you can go ahead and do that, but for the most part, I would always use armor penetration rounds. Yeah, guys, so I think that's pretty much everything for as far as comparing these two. I guess I'll go ahead and compare my two favorite ships, the Amagi and the Tirpitz. My two favorite Tier 8 battleships, anyways. They're not my overall favorite ships, they're just my favorite Tier 8. The Tirpitz is a premium ship, just to remind you, so you have to pay for it. The Amagi is a free-to-play ship. So let's compare these two ships. I already did a little bit of comparison earlier. The Tirpitz has 5,000 more hit points. Tirpitz has better citadel protection. Tirpitz has more damage reduction, over 2% more damage reduction. Then if you compare torpedo damage reduction, my Tirpitz does have, you know what, I'm just gonna swap this out just so that it's literally a one-on-one comparison. My equipment's the same on both ships. Supplies are the same. Those two are right here are swapped in different opposite positions, but they're literally the same. And then my Tirpitz has camouflage, so I guess that doesn't help. Let me just use no camo. Alright. There we go. And then let's look at the commanders. I have a level 6 Amagi commander, and by the way, this Amagi commander has this Kraken Unstoppable for the tier 4. That's because I switched it from a different ship. If I knew I was going to be using this commander on my Amagi in the first place, I would have used Victorious Charge, not Unstoppable. Let's just look at some others here. Because I switched this commander. Yeah, I'm not going to go through a full analysis here. I might make different choices if I were to level up this commander from the get-go on my Amagi. But anyways, I'm not going to go over that. My Tirpitz is also a level 6. I would keep the Unstoppable on my Tirpitz because you can get it's a lot easier to get a Kraken on a Tirpitz than the other battleships. But anyways, so my equipment's all the same. So let's do a comparison now. My torpedo damage reduction is 15% on the Tirpitz right here, and it is 15.75% on the Amagi. But the Tirpitz does have way more hit points and takes less damage than an Amagi does. The max speed on the Tirpitz is 28.34 knots. It's 28.06 knots on the Amagi. So it's just slightly faster. The Tirpitz is slightly faster. It does take a little bit longer to accelerate in the Tirpitz. It takes 32.69 seconds in the Tirpitz to accelerate to full speed, whereas the Amagi takes 25.15 seconds. That's 32.69 versus 25.15. The Tirpitz maneuvers a little bit better than the Amagi. You can turn at 5.2 degrees a second versus 4.8 degrees a second. The Amagi is 4.8 degrees a second. The main guns on the Amagi are 410mm. You have 10 of them. Went over these earlier. 21-second reload time. The Tirpitz has 380mm main guns. Has 8 of them with a 20-second reload time. So you have 2 less main guns in the Tirpitz with a 1-second faster reload time. If you look at the amount of damage being done, the main guns on the Amagi do more damage than the Tirpitz. Your high explosive rounds do 1,180 damage on the Amagi, whereas the Tirpitz does 968 damage. There's actually a lot higher fire chance, a 4% higher fire chance on the Amagi. Your high explosive do 13% on the Amagi versus 9% on the Tirpitz. Your AP rounds are doing, on the Amagi, your AP rounds are doing 1,864 damage. The Tirpitz 1,770 damage. So that's 1,864 versus 1,770, so you're doing more damage on the Amagi. And the turrets traverse at the same speed, so you're going to be turning your main guns at 5 degrees a second. That's the same on both ships. The secondary guns, the Amagi has 16 secondary guns, 140mm, and the Tirpitz has 12 main guns, 150mm, so they're 10mm larger on the Tirpitz. You have a faster reload time on the secondary guns on the Amagi than the Tirpitz. It is 7.5 seconds on the Amagi versus 8.2 seconds on the Tirpitz. You have a little bit better range on the secondaries on the Tirpitz. The Amagi has a 6.2 kilometer range, and the Tirpitz has a 6.9 kilometer range on the secondaries. And lastly, the AP damage on the secondaries are more on the Tirpitz than the Amagi. The Amagi is doing 401 damage with their secondary rounds, and the Tirpitz is doing 590. So you have less guns On the Tirpitz, a little bit longer reload time, but you're doing a lot more damage. on the Tirpitz, you're doing quite a bit more damage on the Tirpitz. That's actually 189 more damage on the Tirpitz than the Amagi on the secondaries. Now the Tirpitz, what's nice is it has auto secondary guns, so it has extra secondaries. There are 16 secondary guns that fire automatically. They're 105 millimeters, and they fire every 7.5 seconds. They have a 3.8 kilometer range, so these are literally only used for ships that are right next to you. You have to be really close to the enemy, but what's nice is that you're gonna be getting really close to the enemies anyways if you're playing a Tirpitz, because you want to use your torpedoes, which have a short range on them. So that's bringing me to my next point, the torpedoes. The Amagi does not have torpedoes, the Tirpitz does. Tirpitz has 533 millimeter torpedoes, has 2 sets of 4. So you have 1 set of 4 on the right, 1 set of 4 on the left. They have a 48-second reload time. That's awesome. I love the 48-second reload time is really good, especially at tier 8, because reload times tend to get a lot longer the higher tier you go. But 48 seconds at tier 8 is really good. Each torpedo does 3,186 damage, but the range is 5.4 kilometers, which is very short. Very short. You really have to be close to launch these torpedoes. The torpedo speed is 59.74 knots. It's alright. It's not crazy fast. It's not super slow. It has 11% chance of flooding, and the torpedo to traverse speed is 16 degrees a second. And then, of course, I already did the anti-aircraft, but just to compare the surface detection, you have 11.52 kilometer surface detection in the Tirpitz and a 12.36 kilometer surface detection in the Amagi. So Tirpitz is a little more hidden than an Amagi, but in both ships you're pretty much going to be just, seeing the whole battle. You're not going to be hidden from the enemy very much anyway, so that doesn't really matter. Let's see. I know there was something else that I wanted to talk about that I had in my mind a second ago, but then I got distracted. Let's see. What did I want to talk about? I cannot remember. Anyways. Yeah, guys, Tirpitz is my favorite Tier 8 battleship right now. I can't wait to play the British battleships when those come out. Amagi is my favorite free-to-play battleship, and I do not recommend getting the Bismarck until they fix those ships. The German battleships are broken at tier 8 and above, so the tier 8, tier 9, tier 10 German battleships right now in version 1.7 of the game are completely broken. Do not attempt to get them or waste your blueprints on them. I skipped the tier 7. I love the tier 6 German battleship, the Bayern. I skipped the tier 7. I've heard good things about the tier 7, but I haven't played it, so I cannot verify if it's actually good. I've heard some players actually telling me they liked the Bismarck, and I'm like, what? Well, I mean, clearly if you haven't played something better, you might like the Bismarck. But if you've played something way better than the Bismarck, when you get to the Bismarck, it's like, what am I playing? Why did they release this? So, no. I actually also heard someone say they liked the tier 9 German battleship, and that drove me insane. I mean, I was just, I was flabbergasted. I have no idea why anyone would say that. The tier 9, he's actually a friend of mine. The tier 9 German battleship is atrocious. It's horrible. It's a monster in a bad way. It's a monster in that it drives you nuts when you play it. You just get completely wrecked. Maybe I just suck at it. I don't know. I mean, I think I do pretty good in battleships, and I just get destroyed in my tier 9. It's horrible. The acceleration is, let's go look at it. I did this in my last video. The acceleration is 40.5 seconds. Over 40.5 seconds acceleration. You cannot bait or dodge torpedoes, but it's a brawler. It has horrible shell dispersion, so you cannot sit and snipe from far away. You have to get close to land all your rounds. This thing does do a lot of damage though. I love it. I can take out an Iowa easily in my Friedrich. So I can't wait for them to fix this ship. I love how much damage it does. I have to say that. The one thing I love is how much damage it does, and it has really good damage protection too. I want so bad to like this ship. I really want to like it because of how much damage it does. But man, the problem is that you can't defend yourself against the enemy. If there's two enemy next to you, you're gonna get wrecked. And if they have torpedoes, you're done. I mean, there's no point in trying. Like, you better get as much damage as you can as quick as you can, because if there's an enemy next to you with torpedoes, you are done. You're finished. So the way I like to play, as y'all have seen, is I love baiting and dodging torpedoes. It just excites me when I do it. I love it. I love when I dodge all of a player's torpedoes, because I know it's driving them nuts. The thing is, actually, why I got good at that is because when I was playing Destroyer, I actually started out as a Destroyer player. And one of my good friends, Brandon J1, who happened to abandon me, he stopped playing this game. And then he joined Pramo and didn't join my fleet. So he's a traitor, and everybody knows it. I'm just kidding, bro. But no, for real though, Brandon showed me how to bait torpedoes. He was baiting and dodging my torpedoes when I was a Destroyer player, and I had never played cruisers or battleships, so I thought I was like hot stuff. I was like a specialist at destroyers. And then this guy starts baiting my torpedoes, and I'm missing like crazy. It drove me nuts. And so then I knew, like, when I tried out cruisers and battleships, I needed to learn how to bait torpedoes, because I wanted to drive other people nuts the way that I was driven nuts by my friend Brandon J1. So yeah, he showed me how to bait and dodge torpedoes, and then in turn I made a YouTube channel and started showing other people how to bait and dodge torpedoes. Which, by the way, go ahead and search YeahBuoy torpedo baiting. I'll actually put some links in my description of how to bait and dodge torpedoes. Or you can just search for it. I have a whole bunch of videos, and not a lot of them get very discovered. There's a whole lot of videos that I made so long ago that they're just lost now in my plethora of videos that I've uploaded. Anyways, guys, yeah, this Friedrich, give it a chance once the developers fix it, because it does awesome damage, just you can't defend yourself against destroyers. So if you're gonna play this ship, you need to stay in a group with your teammates, and preferably let other battleships be in front of you. Like, let other people be a better target than you are. If you want to survive in this thing, you should probably take my own advice and play more than 8 battles. I could probably do better if I took my own advice and let other people go in front of me. I love taking the lead. I love taking charge. That's why this thing is not the ship for me right now. But yeah, I'm actually not the only one that's had frustration with this ship. It's pretty common knowledge that this thing sucks, and it's gonna get fixed eventually. Maybe like next year it'll get fixed at the rate that ships are getting fixed right now. But yeah, guys, I hope that y'all like this video. Give me a thumbs up if it was helpful, if you enjoyed it, and I'll catch y'all next time.